And welcome everybody, Lionheart here, and this is my Rome 2 roundup, post E3, post Res, post all the gaming events and festivals that have been going on over the last few weeks. The summer has truly begun in proper fashion now. The Creative Assembly are firing out regular updates and content about Rome 2 all the time, so this video will probably be, you know, updated or, you know, null and void by next weekend or something like that. But here's what we know so far. I'm going to cover kind of some of the various aspects and some of the key things that you guys asked for in my previous video for me to specifically look at. If I did an in-depth analysis of everything we know or everything that came out of E3 and Res, I would be here for a very long time, and I'm sure some of you would quite happily watch that video, and I'm sure, to be honest, I'd quite happily make it, but for the rest of you, it's not going to be that great. So I'm going to try and keep this to about 10-15 minutes. I'm going to go through various information we found out since E3, some of the key things. We'll look through some of the Q&As that have been done post E3 and a few of your own kind of queries and questions, and hopefully wrap that all up. Anyway, let's begin with a quick roundup of what we know so far, generally kind of based about the factions. I will be looking up towards my computer screen several times during this video just to kind of look at some of the content and stuff that I'm reading off, and also there will be screenshots and stuff flying in through this video at various points as well, so you won't have to look at my face for the whole sort of 10-15 minutes. Anyway, let's start off. Faction wise, there are supposedly 117 in the game. Of these so far, 12 are playable. These are obviously Rome, Carthage, Macedon, the Iceni, the Avani, the Suebi, the Parthia, Egypt, Pontus, and then the Greek cities culture pack of Athens, Erypus, and Sparta. Now I probably said them wrong, or some of them at least. I think I know which ones. Hopefully I'll get better saying those by the time Rome 2 comes out, because I've got plenty of content planned for that, and I will update you all again with my kind of content scheduling for Rome 2 at the end of this video. So those are the playable factions, 12 to start with, most likely because they've already announced the Greek States Culture Pack, which you can get from certain retailers if you pre-order. The Greek States Culture Pack, that opens up several, I would think, possibilities for other DLCs to unlock sort of packs of other factions from that 117 faction unit pool. So we've got 12 so far, so that's what, 105 other factions remaining that could potentially come out as culture packs. Obviously, probably the majority of them won't, but there will be still, I would have thought, expanding of other factions. Perhaps we might be looking totally towards the end of around about 20 playable factions. I would assume, this is just my own educated guess, or sort of my own sort of kind of hypothesis. With the Greek states coming out with 3 factions, I would have thought perhaps maybe 2 or 3 of those sort of types of faction unlock packs, and then there'll probably be some bonus unit packs and things like that, and there may well be full-scale expansions like we had Fall of the Samurai and Rise of the Samurai for Shogun 2. That was kind of a nice before and after, so they may well do that. They may do kind of, you know, a return to barbarian invasion and have the on the eve of the fall of the Roman Empire, you know, the barbarian tribes really sort of souped up and coming back and attacking heavily, because they've shown that they can have a single game but with different factions placed around, or sort of different campaigns rather, within that game, with Rise of the Samurai and Fall of the Samurai. I thought that was a nice before and after, so I would be interested in that, but I'm not sure with before the period we're looking at. I'm not sure. It'd be probably more of a focus perhaps on, you know, the decline of the Egyptian Empire perhaps. I don't really know, my history on there's a bit shaky, but I would have thought we'd at least get some sort of barbarian-esque style invasion expansion. You know, the fall of the Roman Empire. There may well be other expansions there. Put your suggestions in the comments, or your thoughts as well. Feel free to seriously debate the crap out of this video in the comments. So yeah, 12 playable factions to start out of a total of 117. I think that's a pretty reasonable amount, considering I'm not sure if that's the highest number of playable factions to start with as such. Yes, I know some of them are pre-order extras, but potentially on release day you have the opportunity to play it as all 12 if you go for the pre-order and things like that. Because obviously Napoleon's Total War had quite a small unit pool. I think it was, what, 4 or 5 factions you could start with. Empire, I can't remember, I think there was about 9 or 10, maybe more. You guys can correct me, I'm sure, in the comments, but Shogun and Fall of the Samurai, there was around about 8 of those, I think, and they expanded with DLCs as well. Anyway, Release date, of course, as you should well know, it's all, I'm sure, engraved into your brains, into your calendars. September 3rd, 2013. We have just under 2 months now until the day. And I will be doing a lot of content for Rome 2 in between now and then. So that will all be kicking off from the 3rd of August, a month before the release date. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Also got lots of other things coming up very shortly, actually, sooner than you might think, about Rome 2 as well. So that should be good as well. I said as well a lot there. As well. Anyway, as well, let's have a brief look at the campaign map. Should hopefully have a nice picture coming up shortly. So, from information I have gathered from around the interwebs and various interviews and what have you, and magazine previews, supposedly there are 183 regions in Rome 2, and they are grouped by a new system introduced into Rome 2 called provinces, and apparently there's 57 provinces. Provinces are groupings of regions of up to 4, so there can be up to 4 regions in a province. There may be less, there may just be provinces perhaps even where there's just 2. I don't know if it could have a province where there's just 1 region, but who knows. But basically it means that each region within a province has to be conquered separately, and within each sort of collection of regions that make a province, one of them will be the kind of the capital region of that province, and it's there that you'll be fighting siege battles. So only one region, as far as I understand it, within that province will be siegeable as such. The rest will be open land battles. You'll be drawing the enemy out or something like that. Maybe there'll be small, perhaps kind of buildings on the battle map, but the full-scale sieges will happen at the region capital. Again, I think this is to make it so that it is not just, as I personally see in quite a lot of the other Total War games now, it is essentially fight a land battle, besiege them, take it, secure it, fight a land battle, siege them, secure it, fight a land battle, siege them, secure. You get the idea. This way, hopefully, it's drawing out more tactical, more aggressive AI play as well, forcing more open land battles as well as naval battles. And then at the end of it all, kind of a campaign to push for a whole province. Then you will fight the siege. So I think there's kind of more of a sense of achievement there. Actually, you've pushed through several battles. You've finally got to siege. Not that you've sieged here, you've sieged here, you've sieged here. Oh, and you've sieged again. Kind of gets a bit repetitive, so I actually quite like this. It's kind of like a reward system almost for conquering the whole province. You get the big epic siege right at the end. So I think that's a good idea. I quite like it. I'm going to be looking forward to that. And apparently there's kind of edicts and stuff like that you can announce and research or whatever for different for the different provinces. I'm not sure if that's going to be an overall one for all your provinces, or for specific ones you can make one province a military province as such, or one an economic one, or different focuses on that. That'll be something interesting to see in the future as the game develops. But that'd be kind of quite interesting, I would have thought, because then certain provinces you'd be kind of aimed at, like, oh, that's my grain producing province. Without that, I'll have no food to supply all my troops or something like that. Got to defend that province over this one here, which is a I don't know, just a low starting farmland province with not as much economic value or something like that, or a key military province that you want to hold on to, something like that. So I think that gives you a bit of direction as well. I think that again stops the repetitiveness so much on the campaign map. Early game it's fine, there's no repetitiveness because you're expanding, you're looking to sort of expand your empire, but it's when you start meeting the borders with enemies, you start clashing for border skirmishes, and then you push over into their borders, then it gets a bit repetitive, personally I find. By no means am I saying that that's a bad thing. I love the Total War series, there's no doubt about that. I'm sure you guys can tell and can see. However, I think this mechanic will really improve the kind of the replayability of the campaign, and make it a far more enjoyable experience than it already is, which is, I mean, it's pretty high up there on the enjoyment scale. Anyway, so that's campaign map. I think I've covered the things on that. Now, I did stumble across an article which I hadn't heard much about this to start with, but it was talking, because a lot of people are talking to me about agents. Are agents making a return? How is diplomacy going to work? I did see in the E3 Battle of the Nile video, I saw a bit of diplomacy, but for the life of me now I can't remember precisely what happened, whether it was an agent that instigated it or whether there was a diplomacy panel. Now, if there's a diplomacy panel, well, we've got used to that since Empire, so that it would kind of make sense that they follow on with that. However, these agents perhaps make me think slightly differently, that we might be returning to the whole wandering diplomat thing, in the fact that this article that I'm looking at, linked to it with inscription, it's by Strategy Informer, and it was released back in June with E3, I think, and supposedly there are 3 agent types in Rome 2, the Dignitary, the Champion, and the Spy. Now, information is a bit scarce on all these. We definitely know, or according to the article, more about the Champion, I think it is. Yes, the Champion is apparently a passionate warrior, loners, but they're incredibly skilled warriors. They can buff certain unit types and help with training, so they're kind of like the foreign veterans that we had in Fall of the Samurai. Apparently they can reduce enemy army morale, set traps, and harass and assassinate generals. So they're the assassin in there, and as well as the kind of the unit trainer. So it looks like you've kind of got the combination, the hybrid units now. But Dignitary, to me that's obviously Dignitary, diplomatic agent. To me that says, well, surely they must be able to engage in diplomacy. So I wish I'd seen that video again now to clarify whether it is a diplomatic kind of screen that comes up that you can do all your trade and stuff through, as we've done since Empire, or whether it's back to kind of Medieval 2 and previous Total War games where you have to send the Dignitary to a city or a province or a region of an enemy faction or a foreign faction, basically. So that's going to be interesting. Even if it is a diplomacy screen, there's going to be interesting to see how the Dignitary works into that. Maybe he can inspire or boost relations if he's sent to a foreign province. Maybe he's kind of like an emissary, basically, where he goes and sets up an embassy or something like that in a foreign territory, and that improves trade or diplomatic relations. That'll be something I will look to find out if I can. More information on that shortly. Obviously the Spy, I think we're pretty clear on what he does. So he'll be sabotaging. He won't be assassinating, that's the Champion's job apparently, but he'll be spying, sabotaging, and maybe he'll be improving line of sight for your armies, things like that as well. Because that's something I personally forget to do a little bit. I do it more in Fall of the Samurai because that's where the agents are actually kind of, there's more promotion to use them like that. But really should probably be using my spies and assassins in other Total War games within my armies themselves, because they have their own unique boosts and traits there as well. So, moving on from agents, now looking at the AI. Now there was a huge amount of AI talk following Rezzed. There was some at E3 as well, but at Rezzed, the Total War did a live kind of demo and Q&A session there, and they had their AI battle developer and sort of engineers, technicians, developers. They're answering some questions, and from that it seems like they've really worked hard to make the AI far more intuitive, far more challenging, and hopefully far more difficult to beat. Now for some people, they find the AI is the disappointing thing in the Total War series, that it just isn't enough of a challenge. Personally, the first time I played Shogun 2, I tried doing it on a legendary settings, and the AI really smashed me. Now I know that's because they were given stat boosts and things like that, but I don't care if they have to be given those boosts just so that they can then intuitively challenge me, basically. I don't mind them getting some unfair bonuses if that makes it harder, as long as it remains enjoyable, which I found it did in Shogun 2. Some people didn't. Some people found they were just too overpowered. The stat boosts and things like that were just out of proportion, and it was getting silly, basically. But I disagree. So, however, with Rome, they said they've really worked up the AI. As with every Total War game, I don't think we've had a Total War game that's the AI has been worse than the previous iterations, so it can only be developing further. I mean, they are pushing the limits of AI technology, you know, developing AI that can react and things like that. But what they've also said, they're working in far more kind of tactics and getting the AI to recognise certain situations, which units are going to be best compared to everything else that's going on around them, not just that certain instance. So if they attack someone in a street, they're also going to keep in mind of that cavalry unit wandering around the back, supposedly, and that's what I got out of it. So hopefully we're going to see a far more intuitive AI. People have also been asking quite extensively, which is fair, and it was noted at the Res Live event, will sort of the AI, if they're playing as Rome, or rather if the AI is playing as Rome, not as the player, the AI is playing as Rome, will that use Roman tactics? Will that use kind of, or if they're playing as the Greeks, will they use kind of you know, phalanxes and things like that? And sort of shield wall and proper tactics that they historically used. And while the answer the Creative Assembly gave was that if they scripted in certain formations that each faction AI would have to use, they felt that it wouldn't be as intuitive as if they offered them a whole wide range of tactics. Didn't specifically say that they have to use this one, because they said that the AI, if it was you know, told to use specifically kind of Macedonian tactics as the Macedonian faction, then you know, it wouldn't actually adapt that well to certain situations. So what they've tried to give is an adaptive AI that reacts to certain situations, and hopefully the the commands and actions of the human player. But they have said that within that, the AI will hopefully at some points kind of, you know, form up certain familiar looking tactics perhaps from history, but they're not restricting them or scripting them solely to use those tactics in battle. So I think that's good. I think that hopefully that should offer far more of a challenge with the AI. Also, what came up through that AI talk was that there is the opportunity for modding. Now, modding has been kind of a very high topic for many communities, many community forums, especially over on the Total War Centre, where I frequent probably the most of all the community websites, along with the obviously the official forums. Modding is very close to the heart there, and we wouldn't have things such as, you know, Third Age or Darth Mod, things like that, for previous Total War games without the Creative Assembly allowing modding to go as far as it has. Now, since Empire, with the new Warscape engine that they've been using since then, modding has been restricted because a lot more things had to be hard-coded into the game engine. Now, obviously, without the Creative Assembly redoing the whole engine, it's going to be it's going to be very difficult for them to, you know, to change things. Major thing that has occurred from that, which is probably, I would think, one of the major restrictions to seeing kind of full conversion mods as we had with Medieval 2, is that the campaign map remains hard-coded as far as I understand, which means that it's very difficult for modders to actually change the campaign map, add new regions, or, you know, change it to a Third Age landscape. Maybe that will open up in the future. The Creative Assembly have said they're going to try and do as much as they can for modders within, you know, their own kind of budgets, I assume, like that, and with the resources that they have and the time that they have, they are very much, I would say, probably one of the best developers for community support and for community interaction. And modding, I mean, various times I've been to visit them, we often get chatting about what their favourite mods are for Total War games. So they play the mods that get made for their games. They enjoy them as much as we do. So hopefully we will at least see kind of new units being able to make it into the game. Probably, you know, stat changes. That's gonna be, I'm sure, options and features that modders can get in and do. We probably still won't see full conversion mods, but from Shogun 2 we had the TED editor, which was a battle map editor. People have been sort of speculating that if there can be a battle map editor, maybe there could possibly be a campaign map editor. But essentially, they have to, I guess, Creative Assembly have to be careful about how much kind of powerful tools they release or develop for modders, because essentially, if you can make a campaign map with Rome 2 with its graphic engines, and if you're able to make your own units, you can essentially make your own games from now on. So maybe there'll have to be some sort of limitation there. I don't know. But that's going a lot into the whole modding ethics, or, you know, what can happen, what can't happen. But modding is still on the table. It's not been shut down. Now, talking about the Warscape engine, a few people I have been sort of viewing their comments have say that the engine is brand new for Rome. It's been heavily revamped, reworked and redone, but at the base of it we are still on the same engine that powered Empire Total War. The Warscape engine is still here. It's been given, if anything, a major graphics overhaul, but at the base of it is still the Warscape engine. So we'll still see all the kind of the traits of that engine, but I think right now it's actually been developed quite nicely through Empire, Napoleon and Shogun 2. So hopefully Rome 2 will really sort of be the pinnacle of the Warscape engine. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say on modding. I've probably gone far more into modding than I could have done. I'm seeing my timer over in the corner. We're already nearly hitting the 20-minute mark, so I'm going to go through a few questions from the Q&A that the Creative Assembly posted up on their own forums post E3, which actually a lot of your own questions that you commented to me in my last vlog were about. So I won't be going through all of them, but I will link to that Q&A so you guys can read the rest of them there, and that would hopefully fill in all the gaps that I won't be able to cover. But things like, okay, a lot of people have been talking about capture points, and one of the questions was, does every battle have a capture point? And the Creative Assembly have replied that no, most battles in Rome 2 are apparently normal field battles or open sea battles. They don't have capture points or baggage trains as such. Ambush battles don't have capture points either. Capture points for cities have obviously been in since Rome 2, you know, the central square that you've had to capture, but now they're developing that with you know, various points like capture the gateway, capture the southern tower, or something like that. Capture the harbour, perhaps, if you're fighting on a land-naval you know, hybrid map. So that's you know, capture points won't be on every single map, so those people that don't like the idea of them, there probably will be few and far between. In fact, it'll be kind of the big province sieges that you'll most likely see them. Also reading here, you've got things like the new feature of baggage trains. They occur in battles when an army is attacked while it's in a forced march stance on the campaign map. This apparently represents the army being caught on the move, so they're unprepared for battle. So it's kind of a new ambush mode. So you know, you capture them while they're in thin column. They're protecting perhaps weaker sort of militia type units. So that's going to be very interesting. There's a lot more detail on that on the forum link, and that will be in the description, so definitely go check that out for more information on that. Also, apparently where the land and naval forces combine in a battle, the defender's baggage train will be present to prevent any remaining defending navies winning a battle unrealistically by hiding out at sea. That's good. That stops that happening. That's very good. Or, you know, waiting for the attacker to give up. So that's good. So it has a lot of information there about that. Placement of baggage trains will vary from battle to battle, apparently. While still being in the defender's deployment zone, both sides will be able to see exactly where during the deployment phase. Okay, and obviously we have that new tactical kind of like God mode looking down at the battle. So that will be very interesting to see that implemented as well. Another key topic, apparently, that's not gone down well with everyone, are they going to change the unit cards? The unit cards we've seen are very kind of, you know, artistically styled of the period, you know, kind of the drawings of the units in sort of that Roman sort of style. And no, they said no, they've got no plans to change the unit card, so if you really don't like them, you will probably have to wait for a mod, which from the forums I've seen, there are plenty of people already getting ready to do one of these, which I think I quite like them. I think it's a different way of presenting your units as unit cards on the battle map, and I actually quite like them. I think it's far more simplistic. And yeah, I'm totally up for them. As they said, that's what they find. They said that the new cards have been designed so it's easy in use, and it's useful for identifying units on the field within the heat of battle. So you won't be going, oh, which one of these units that all look the same, you know, in their unit image do I want, or which one's my elite one. But certainly extra mods like Darth Mod in the past that have added loads of extra units, they do all generally look the same, they just have different stats. So hopefully this will help differentiate that sort of thing a bit. Another key thing, multiplayer. There's not been too much multiplayer information released, but hopefully we'll see a lot more about multiplayer coming out soon. But what Creative Assembly have said about multiplayer is that Rome 2 will contain the traditional multiplayer modes, such as versus battles, 1 to 4 players per side, so obviously 4v4 maximum. And there will be 1 versus 1 campaigns, co-op or versus. So we're still not seeing any 2 versus 2 co-op campaigns, so 4 players in a campaign, but that I assume is something for them to strive to in future Total Wars that will most likely come out in the future. I can't see them stopping anytime soon. So that may be a bit disappointing for some of you that wanted to see kind of bigger co-op campaigns, but I assume perhaps maybe there's limitations with the co-op campaign. It's a relatively new feature. It was betaed first in Empire, and it first came into, you know, kind of full existence, I think, in Napoleon Total War, and obviously Shogun 2 and Fall of Samurai has really kind of tried to develop that co-op campaign experience further, but there have been bugs and sort of desyncs, things like that, issues with that have carried forth, but hopefully Rome's will continue to improve upon that, and then maybe the game after Rome 2 we will see bigger co-op and versus campaigns. But right now I'm quite happy with the traditional multiplayer modes. There is apparently no free-for-all mode in Rome 2, which apparently a lot of people enjoyed from the original Rome, but again, maybe that will be the updates or something like that, expansion of multiplayer modes. Creative Assembly are looking to, you know, expand multiplayer as much as single player these days, so it could happen. The Avatar Conquest mode from Shogun 2 will not be returning in Rome 2 because you know, they feel they can make a far more compelling multiplayer experience like that in their new project, Total War Arena. So it looks like we'll be having just the kind of the normal battles and lobbies and things like that within Rome 2. I mean, I enjoyed the Avatar map on Shogun 2, but it never really completely engaged me, and I was never completely compelled to complete it. So let's have a few more questions now from this, and then I will wrap up, because we have really... I hope you've stayed with it, and I hope you've enjoyed everything I've commented on so far. But let's go through a few more things. Will there be a beta or demo for Rome 2 before release? Quite short and simple. They've said no, there won't be. Rome 2, for many, is probably their baby, you know, it's Creative Assembly's baby. Their biggest project to date, 40% budget increase from Shogun 2, so I'm pretty sure it's safe to say they want to keep as much of it in-house as possible, so, you know, when it's ready sort of thing. And obviously that's more time and resources that they have to commit to making separate betas and demos and things like that, and controlling all that as well. But I'm sure we will all be rewarded in just under 2 months' time anyway with the full game. Finally, I will wrap up with, will there be a Blood DLC in Rome 2? I personally enjoyed the Blood DLC that was released for Shogun 2. They've said possibly, but at this moment it's not kind of you know, high up on their priorities to bring that out. The reason why, and this is the same reason for Shogun 2, it's not to make more money, you know, through releasing a feature which some of you feel should have been in the game to start with. It is keeping the game within their age rating restrictions that they keep Total War to, which I believe is, let me have a look at one of my boxes quickly. I believe it's a 16 plus. Oh, that's a mouse falling off the top. Whoops. Let's have a look at Shogun 2's here. Yes, 16. And that's another mouse. So, yeah, if you're wondering what those sounds were, 2 mice falling from the shelf. Nothing serious. So yes, there will not be a Blood DLC to start with. There may possibly be one in the future. I would think, judging by the success and the popularity of the Blood DLC for Shogun 2, there will be one for Rome 2. But it's to keep the age rating at 16. If they put the blood in, it has to go up to an 18, and perhaps that impacts on sales, things like that. And at the end of the day, they are a business, they are a developer, they need to make money, so they can make more projects. So I'm fine with that. I think actually some of the previous Total Wars didn't have blood as to start with anyway, and people were quite happy with that, and mods added it in later. So I'm sure we'll all survive without blood until, most likely I would assume, a blood DLC comes out, or a mod that adds it in anyway. So that's basically where I'm just looking through the final questions they had there. I don't think there's anything else that I need to cover that I haven't already covered. The specs. The system specs of the game. That's what I didn't go to. The final specs have been covered, have been announced, and I will go through them briefly. You can check them out in their complete form in the description. Link will be to them as well. But minimum specs, you'll want XP Vista 7, Windows 7 or Windows 8. Don't bother with 8, get 7. That's just my personal opinion. I don't see the point of 8. I'm sticking with 7. You'll need a 2 GHz Intel dual-core processor or a 2.6 Intel single-core processor, 2 GB of RAM, a 512 MB DirectX 9 compatible graphics card, with shader model 3 or higher, DirectX 9 obviously, and you'll need 35 gigs of hard drive space and a screen resolution of 124 x 768. Recommended Windows 7 or Windows 8, obviously 64 bits for both of those, and I'll tell you for why in a minute. And then a second generation Intel Core i5 processor or higher is recommended. 4 GB of RAM. Now this is why I say 64-bit. If you don't have 64-bit operating system, you're limited to about 3.25 GB of RAM. You will want RAM for this game. RAM will help load up all those graphics and visuals of your units on the battlefield, as well as your graphics card kicking in there as well. But RAM is important. They also recommend at least a 1 GB DirectX 11 compatible graphics card. Obviously DirectX 11 is required or recommended for the top end settings. 35 gig hard drive space, and a screen resolution they recommend of 1920 by 1080, which is pretty standard for HD these days. I will be doing a getting yourself ready for Rome 2 PC building video, and I will also look into some gaming laptops, and I'll talk about gaming laptops briefly in a moment. But I'll be doing a video on that at the start of August, kind of builds for a PC for £500, £800, £1,000, you know, kind of looking at that middle ground between budget PC that can run Rome 2 on the best settings possible for that budget, £800 one which should run it comfortably, and a £1,000 sort of enthusiast class desktop that just wants to blow everything away, maximum graphics, you know, high FPS, and really run it well. But the key thing here is, if you're looking to upgrade, I would highly recommend looking at i5 Intel processors. AMD, they're good, and personally I would probably still pick up one of their older Phenom 2 quad-core processors over one of their new Bulldozer ones. But Intel are really, they've got the edge in terms of CPU performance in the Total War series right now. But I'll be doing a full video on all the specs and recommendations I make, especially for graphics cards and things like that, and also upgrades and what have you. So tune in for that. That will be at the start of August. Now, gaming laptop wise, I've got a gaming laptop pros and cons review hopefully coming up after this video. If not, it will be up in the next day or two when I can get that uploaded. And as for my schedule for when Rome 2 releases on September 3rd, for the whole of September I will be doing just Rome 2. There will be 3 single player Let's Plays and then regular online battles across the week. I may also, after the first couple of weeks, look to expand and do a co-op campaign with another YouTuber. Those Let's Plays that I'll be doing, one will be playing as the Roman faction. I can't not do a Roman Let's Play with Rome 2. I really want to anyway. The other one will be one of the Greek city-states from the Culture Pack, which you guys will get a chance to vote on in August as well. And the final faction you guys will vote completely on. It can be any of the other remaining factions to choose from. Possibly looking at something a bit more varied than the others because they're in a similar sort of starting position, but maybe something like the Iceni, the kind of the Brittonic tribes. But that will be totally up to you guys. So I'll have 3 Let's Plays on the go, and a full schedule of their times and days and things like that will be released in early September. But anyway, I very much hope you've enjoyed this sort of look at various amounts of information we've found out since E3 and Rezzed and all the other gaming festivals that are ongoing and have just occurred. Hopefully I've got most of my information right. If I haven't, my apologies, but please do feel free to comment in the description if you have you know, any debates or things like that, and questions, what have you. If you do have questions that you would like put to the Creative Assembly, now I cannot guarantee this, but if I can, I will try and meet with them before the release of Rome 2 on September 3rd. So if you have any questions, as amazing as it is and as easy as it is to post them in the comments, so that it's easier for me to take them to them, please use the email address that's in my Connect With Me section in the description. And that email is contact@lionheartx10.co.uk. Please email them to me there, because that will be the easiest way for me to, you know, collaborate them all together, put them all together and take them to them basically. That may or may not happen, but we'll see what I can do in the meantime. But get those questions to me as soon as possible and I'll see what I can do. But yes, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do remember to comment and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for plenty more Total War Rome 2 action videos, reviews, content coming over the next, well, 2 months. As always, hope you've enjoyed. Ciao for now.